I'm going to go through a story of nuclear power, cultural legacy, and deep time. This is Onkalo. Onkalo means hiding place. It is in Finland, in south of Finland, in an island. It is a final repository of nuclear waste, the first of its kind ever built in the world. It has been developed as a response to a legislation that was passed in 1987 by Finland that has stated in law that Finland should deal with all its nuclear waste and that should be disposed in Finland. So all the nuclear waste that would come out of the nuclear power plants in Finland should be disposed and stored in Finland. So that brings about first, environmental justice. So that means by no way they would dump the nuclear waste somewhere else. It has been the practice. But that also means very much intergenerational justice. So that means not leaving that to be dealt by future generations in Finland. It's the first country that has developed it, but it is leading the world, and many other countries are following Finland on that one. Nuclear waste take 100,000 years for the radioactive spent fuel to decay. 100,000 years. The waste, the radioactive waste that is highly toxic, cannot disappear. It cannot be made harmless. It has to be stored safely and for a very, very long time. Nowadays, in the world, there are currently 265,000 tons of nuclear waste that are stored in interim temporary facilities all over the world in countries. Finland, in the context of decarbonization, in the context of reducing the carbon emissions, Finland is betting on nuclear energy as the solution, as many other countries in the world. And Finland wants to make the case that it is a sustainable solution, and they are championing it. To make the case that it is sustainable, it has to demonstrate that you can dispose safely, sustainably of the nuclear waste. Therefore, they have to deal with this idea of the storage. The storage, currently, as I said, the interim storage is stored in places that are above ground, usually attached to the nuclear power points, and they are usually in pools, in water pools. So that demands quite a lot of management, a lot of power to keep the water of the pool at good temperature, but also a lot of control and supervision. It is vulnerable. It can leak. It can be neglected. The world above ground is unstable, and we cannot predict for several centuries, let alone for millennia, how the world above will go. So therefore, a sustainable solution to dispose of nuclear waste in the long time, it has to be underground. Finland has therefore developed as the solution this idea of geological repository of the nuclear waste. It is situated in a very characteristically area, because Finland, in this area, the bedrock is extremely stable. It is granite, so super strong, and it hasn't geologically moved for 1 billion years. So it's very stable. It is also far away from the fault lines, so it is quite away from any exposure to earthquakes. So that presents lots of interesting characteristics for choosing the site. How it is done? So the complex infrastructure, I mean, a lot of engineers have been go through. It is a succession of corridors of chambers that go very deep in the bedrock of the Earth. It is starting to collect the waste. They are a little bit ahead of time as far as understood. They started to open it and collect the waste just last summer in 2024. And progressively they will fill it, all the waste produced in Finland. The size of the repository is massive. It is like a city. It is like a very huge underground repository. So it has to be properly stored and properly managed. For it to be a proper, as I said, a very sustainable space, and to manage the duration of 100,000 of years, it is only doable if it is prevented for any intruders. If you have no intrusions, if no one in next civilization comes with any curiosity to see what's in there. How do you do that? This is Japan. This is a table that was inscribed to warn generation of the risk and the exposure of the area to tsunamis. At that time, in the 19th century, the area has suffered of 2 very deadly tsunamis, with 22,000 people dead. Yet, this is Japanese, it is an active language, people knew, people could read. The region has continued to develop and led to further devastation through tsunami. How do you go through a long period of time? What do you use to transmit a sense of danger through such a long period of time? Language is at its limit, sign has this limit. So how do you do? Art. Art, the power of painting like that, so expressive, that can go through a long period of time. And that was very much discussed with the engineering team in Onkalo about the Munch painting called the Scream. But also, when we think about the past, we think about the myths, we think about the legends, all those very powerful stories that have been able to navigate through such a long period of time, through co-creation, through sharing, through written languages or oral conversation. This is super, super powerful. I'm going to show you something that is maybe familiar how a very powerful story. This is Dune, the film inspired by Frank Herbert's book, how this conveys a very strong sense of danger and fear attached to a space. A space, in that case, that is the desert, that is very much subject to exploitation of oil, of mine, of nuclear bomb testing in the Sahara. And that's a powerful, very powerful image that can potentially really show the power of myth to tell a story of danger attached to place. This is Göbekli Tepe in South Turkey, the oldest human built infrastructure. It dates from the Neolithic. It is thought to be a place where hunter-gatherer would come together for a form of cult, of spiritual practices. It dates from the Neolithic. The human at that time were Neanderthal human. It dates from 10,000 years ago. With Onkalo, we're talking 10 times more, 100,000 years. So how will, if we go with the hypothesis that someday civilization want to dig out and find out what's under the bedrock, how will they understand it? Probably will they understand it as what it is? A space that stores very dangerous material? Or will they understand it as we do for Nazca, as we do for Stonehenge, as we do for Göbekli Tepe, as a spiritual place, as a place that is related to culture, is related to religion? They will understand it as a belief systems, what we call in philosophy as an ontology. Ontology is the system of knowledge, the language, the words, the myths, the arts, the culture, the notions, everything that participates and that helps a civilization to define their own metaphysical relationship with the world, their philosophy and understanding why we're here on this planet. Every civilization have their own ontology. So what does it tell about our ontology if the last remain of our civilization in the world is planned to be a nuclear waste repository. It says that energy is a gold currency. It is very much related to what we call the modern ontology, and this picture illustrates it quite well. It's a sculpture from Art Nouveau, which is called Nature Unveiling Herself Before Science. Modern ontology is an ontology, so a system of knowledge and beliefs that place nature to be tamed by human, to be understood by science, to be dissected, to be manipulated, and to be exploitative. The modern ontology has created the moral conditions for nature to be exploited ad infinitum. This is, the case studies of Onkalo, because of this lifespan of the infrastructure going so long, hundreds of thousands of years, it really invites us to think about what we leave on Earth and what's our legacy. I'm showing you a prototype of what is called the Long Now clock, which is displayed in the Science Museum in London. It's been designed and developed by the Long Now Foundation. And it is an invitation to reflect on our relationship with deep time at geological scale. The geological clock is super slow. It goes very, very, very slowly, unlike our current clock, which is very fast. Our modern world, which is so accelerated, goes so quick. So really, rethinking sustainability with this geological clock, it means enlarging our perspectives. It means replacing the Anthropocene and recontextualizing it as it is a geological transformation incurred by human. It is also about our relationship with time, our ethical, our philosophical relationship with time. And it is an invitation to reframe and rethink the ontology and potentially enhance it in relation with nature in a more respectful way. Thinking about ourselves with an ecological clock can be super frightening if if it makes us feel so minuscule. On a geological clock, we are few seconds, few minutes. That's frightening. It's like deep space, deep time. Those notions are so frightening. It's also such a relief to think that the world continues without us, especially in the context of the world that is so chaotic. Merci.